he said that traditional leadership was, quote, becoming redundant. A company's goal was to have a motivated workforce that was encouraged to be effective rather than being told what to do.
Hey, Carol.
Hey, Rob. How's it going, eh?
Hey, good to see you again.
Yeah. I see you have a little bit of a different background today.
Yeah, I'm up here at the family house in Lake Burton, Georgia. For all those who know where that is, it's basically on the South Carolina border. But mountains and water. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So
They have mountains in Georgia?
They do have mountains in Georgia. How about that? Yeah, look at you over it. Yeah, we can't all be from Colorado.
Real mountains or little baby mountains?
Well, not for anything, but it's the beginning of the Appalachian Trail right here too. So there you go.
Yeah, got it. Cool.
Still not impressed. All right, look, this week, interesting. I love this topic. And this is one that's probably going to be near and dear to your heart. So we saw something, Business Insider, companies are unbossing the workplace. And it seems like millennial managers are the ones that are getting the most impact. Companies are cutting middle management roles, and millennials are likely to be most effective because that's sort of where they are in their career right now.
Yeah.
Work culture has changed, and some companies see middle managers, get this, as obsolete. And it could mean that junior staff won't receive the mentorship to climb the ladder. And you and I are so high on mentorship and mentors. I mean, I know it's like I just wind you up and here you go. I can imagine what you have to say about this, but I'll chime in when I can. But this is in your wheelhouse. I can't wait to hear your what your opinion is of this. So go for it.
Yeah, well, I have a lot of opinions, needless to say, based on again 30 years in my business, right? So there's a couple of things. They interviewed the chief people officer at a company called GE Vernova. And let me just mention, if we haven't, we've probably talked about this before in a prior recording. Anyone called the chief people officer is more than likely a human resources person. Okay.
Of course.
So they're not a talent person. And he said that traditional leadership was, quote, becoming redundant. A company's goal was to have a motivated workforce that was encouraged to be effective rather than being told what to do. Now, though I would say, yes, that's really important to give people rope to be innovative and to work. But what I think that this guy is missing here, again, because he doesn't know talent, he knows human resources, totally different position, was that if you are not checking in with your people, how are they to know if they're going in the proper direction? Right. And he doesn't mention anything about that. Middle management in 2023 accounted for about 1/3 of layoffs, not quite, just short of that. And in 2018, right, so that was 5 years earlier, 20% amounted to middle management, right? So that has increased over the last 5 years. Consequently, confidence levels of middle managers has significantly dropped. Big surprise, right? Due to cost cutting, layoffs, and more demanding performance reviews. So I'm going to pause here for a minute because I have a lot more to say, but we'll talk about some of these other things. Removing this middle management, what does this actually mean? It means a couple of things, right? It means managers now are likely going to have more direct reports, okay, which means more pressure on the manager. I have been an advocate for many, many years of somewhere in the neighborhood of really 6 or 7 direct reports. I'll be interesting to see what you think about that. Is really the max people should be having on their team, direct reports, right? So, you were when you were in London, what, a 4th line manager?
Yeah.
So you had 3rd line below you, they had 2nd line below them. So those are, the direct reports, right? And the reason for that is because you just can't effectively manage more people than that. And the key word here is effectively. I had a client many years ago. He was the president of a company. So he was on the executive committee. And he had something like 10 direct reports. And part of the work that he and I did together was cutting that back. How do we go about doing that? He sent me his entire org chart, some of the, we talked about the intricacies of the different managers and so on and so forth. And we worked him down from 10 to 7, which was far more manageable for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I worked with him on how to talk to some of those people about the change in his reporting structure and why he was doing that. So to avoid people being really pissed off at him. Well, I was a manager to this one person. That doesn't make any sense. Managing one person. Right. So that's kind of my feeling about that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think the most I had was 8. I think 8 is really the outlier. I think you're right, 6 or 7, but you can do as many as 8 if you've done it a while, right? Obviously, your first job, you don't want to do that, but I think that here what we're talking about is the research is also being tied to, and I want to get your opinion on this. It's being tied to the normalization of working from home, advances in tech, artificial intelligence.
Right.
I mean, this is all the stuff we talk about all the time. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, AI is great, but why is that changing how we look at, middle manager, how we look at how we mentor, how we look at how we raise people up to the next level? I mean, what are your thoughts on this? Is crazy. I mean, what does that got to do with it?
Yeah, you've talked so often about how, and we've talked about this, how we have to coexist with technology. But everybody's going to come up with a way to manage people via technology. I will believe it if and when I actually see it, because there's no human connection in technology. There's no two-way conversation in technology, right? So if we are bringing the human element back into the workplace, right, which is the title of one of my other talks, surprisingly so, but technology is not going to take the place of that human element. It's just not. So, like I said, I'll believe it if and when I actually see a technology that can take the place of human interaction.
Well, the issue, Carol, is that they're doing it, right? And they're already doing it. So, and I agree with you 100%. I know there's products out there, and everybody knows there's products out there. For example, we used to do stand and deliver, or we do here's the whiteboard talk, right? You learn that, and you give it to your peers or your a bunch of people, and you collaborate, and you tweak that. Here's how I did it. Oh, when I said that, I kind of like to use this word instead.
Yep.
Now they have technology that you upload, and they grade you on your stand and deliver or your pitch. And I can't be more opposed to something like that. I think again that would be great. Let's do that first, and then let's have a meeting between the 2 people or 3 people, and then we'll go through that. We'll go through what AI came up with, and then have a human connection. Are they doing that? I don't know. People are so busy now. I bet they're not. I bet they're going to the AI. They're going to the, okay, this person passed, check the box, let's move on.
Yeah.
And they're not learning anything.
Yeah, I agree. That's the key. They're not learning, right?
No.
That reminds me of many years ago. Do you remember a company? I don't even know if it's still in business, called Green Job Interview.
No, I don't remember that. What's that about?
Yeah, they were a company. They called it Green Job Interview because it was done over video. So they were kind of ahead of their time like that. I don't know if that was the company or was other, but they had an interview that was a one-way interview. So I'm a candidate applying for a job, and I log into the thing, and it's to their platform, and it's got a number of questions for me to answer that I just answered to a blank screen. And I thought, who's the idiot that came up with this idea?
Maybe.
And even more importantly, who are the idiots that are buying into this? Talk about taking the human element out of an interview. And I can imagine the companies doing this for those that had, as usual, crappy internal recruiters, right? Not real recruiters, but job fillers, order takers. try to eliminate people. Well, guess what? Not everybody is great in front of a camera talking to themselves.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I mean, what a really, they thought they came up with this really innovative product, but to do it on a one way, I'm sorry, I'm completely opposed to that. And that's what I think a lot of this technology is. It's a one way conversation. How do you use it as a tool to improve the human element?
Yeah, the coexisting that we talk about, and how you manage those relationships. We talked about this in a previous episode. In a more digital environment is really hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. So just, that's just it. It's going to be hard, and taking, I'll be provocative here, taking the easy road of having technology do your job. I think that's bullshit. That's what
I
I think.
agree. Yeah. And yeah, I completely agree with that because that's when as I'm listening to you, that's what I'm thinking. Technology is here to solve problems, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But they are, if you lump all technologies together, it is not a panacea. All right.
No.
There are technologies that solve massive problems for your company and do make things easier. And bravo for those. Okay. They allow companies to be able to do things more quickly and get the data they need more quickly. And I think that's just the cat's meow, right? And there's so many companies doing it. All right. When back in the old days, when system software was the thing, right? Pansophic and CA and, some other companies were doing that, right? Or when KnowledgeWare came out with case tools, right? What that meant, right? And when companies were finally understanding what a GUI was. Oh, you mean something that Apple had been doing already for years? They had to call it a GUI, graphical user interface. They couldn't call it Apple called it an icon, right? Because that was what people understood. That's why Apple was and still is, I think, the most user-friendly thing out there, as an Apple user for a long, long, long time. But it's, and that's all fine and dandy, but not all technology is going to make your life easier, which is which most companies are, if not all, I would say probably all companies that produce a product are saying, oh yeah, this is going to make your life so much easier. And that is not always the case because it's not, these things aren't going to necessarily solve the problem of, like we say, the human element piece of it. Just not going to do it. I don't see how that's going to happen. Maybe not, maybe after our lifetime, but not now.
Yeah, it's people, process, and technology. People, process, and technology.
Correct.
Right? And that's the key. There are so many cool products out there. Like I'm a strategic advisor for a company called Scalibrium, and it's just starting up. And it's an amazing product. It takes people, process, and technology. It uses AI. It's technology to put teams together. It's like Moneyball for go-to-market, right? So it's doing all the technology, right? But the bottom line is it's also taking into content. It's a coaching module for mindset training. It's a coaching module for how to make that human connection, how to go in and give and not get. Doing all that work we're doing, it's coexisting with technology, but making sure that you focus on the fact that business is a spiritual game between humans.
One of the other things the article, the Business Insider article, talked about was somebody said millennials are, quote, less interested in corporate bureaucracies or hierarchies, which may be part of why middle management roles are being cut. Right? I might. That may be true, but is it true because they're not getting the mentorship they need and the coaching that they need? I don't know. They didn't talk about this in the article. But that is my question, right? And if I'm not going to be appreciated, why would I be interested in this role? The other thing it said was millennials and Gen Zers are increasingly opting out of working overtime or going above and beyond for promotions, and instead preferring more work time off and leaving the work at work. Well, why would you think this might be? Because they're not appreciated? They're not being mentored properly? They're not being coached? As he sits there and nods in the background. Yeah.
I'm nodding because it's like right on. And the other to put a bow around everything you just said, do they have purpose?
Right. Well, what's their why? I mean, if they can't answer, why do I want to move up the food chain? That's a problem.
Yeah.
And that's a
Yeah.
problem with the company. I mean, I put that on the company, not, for not, again, not asking people, not asking them, what's your goal here? What are you looking to get out of this company? Are you looking to move up the food chain or stay where you are? Right. So I see this as like a vicious circle, right? Just going around and around.
Yeah, and we're not teaching them the skills of how to be an advocate for themselves.
Yes.
That's another real pet peeve of
Yeah.
mine.
We've talked a lot
And
about that.
yeah, I talk. What I mean, what I mean by that is, look, you need to be an advocate for yourself, but you've got to do it in a way that you're a lifelong learner. You're in transformation, right? I used to say, "Oh, I struggle with this. I struggle with that." I don't say that anymore. I'm in transformation. I'm a lifelong learner. So, how do we do that in the business world? Well, instead of saying, "When can I be in management?" you say, "How can I get there? How can I get there? What do I need to do? What do I need to learn?" And that skill is starting to wean, it's starting to disappear, and this is contributing to it.
Right.
It's like I'm just thinking this right now out loud, just thinking this is it. This is raw right here. This is what I'm thinking about, and I'm like, as I'm saying it, I'm like, wait a second, this is what the cause is. We're not investing in our people's purpose. We're worrying about the technology, we're and the money and the modern. I get it, but what's the purpose? What's their why? You said it. I love that, right? What's the why? People can talk about how they do things and what they do all day long. They can do it for a week without taking a breath. I ask a simple question of why you do it. They sit back and they go, I don't know. They don't know. It's sad.
Just like a snowflake floating around, doesn't really know where it's going,
Yeah.
Um, it's
It's a
interesting
great topic.
because yeah, it really is. When I, and the funny thing is we talked offline about this, is that we both saw it on Business Insider, and I was going to send it to you, but you already had sent it to me. So I
Yeah.
thought, yeah, we both obviously saw it and thought this is a really fantastic topic to talk about. But, you know, I you mentioned this client of yours that you're advising and that you're working with, and coaching, I know as well. And it's the same thing with the clients I work with, right? You have to have a CEO that is self-aware enough to understand the value of this work that we do, right? I mean, you and I do a little bit different work, but it's very, very similar in many, many ways, right? Um, And I think that is really the lowest common denominator around the work that we do. You have to have that founder slash CEO, whatever that is, whoever that CEO is, or even somebody on the board, right? Who understands the value and is self-aware enough to realize we can't fix. It doesn't mean we're not going to make money. I mean, that's always important to point out, right? Companies can still make a really good living and have shitty communication and have turnover. But the difference between that and running a talent centric organization, right, is exponentially different from to your bottom line.
I mean, the way I would, you know, for me, my final thoughts on this is to be bold, be brave, and be a disruptor,
Mhm. Yes.
because anybody can hit the easy button and learn how to coexist with the easy button. But for God's sakes, please make that human connection. And whatever technology you're using, back it up with a human connection somewhere in that process.
Yeah.
That's my final thought.
I agree. And it's being a disruptor ain't easy. All right. My whole business is a business based on disrupting the status quo, right? And I
Yep.
believe, yours is, again, looking at the similarities of what we both do, is the same thing. I think we were talking not long ago, not on the show, just the two of us were having a phone conversation. I don't know, it was a week or two ago, about the challenges in our business, right?
Yeah.
It is
Yeah. I
just
remember that. Yeah.
not
Yeah.
easy, right? Remember that
Right.
conversation we had?
Yeah, I do.
It's
I do.
not easy being a disruptor. It's not for everybody. You have to have a massive amount of what's the word I'm looking for? You know,
Certainty.
well, I mean, not only
Conviction.
certainty,
Certainty.
but
Yeah.
you have to have the conviction. You have to have the conviction that, what I'm doing is so important.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kill myself to help people understand this,
Yeah. Right on. Right on.
right? And not everyone is a prospect for us, me or you, because they don't have that leadership that is looking at um, how can we make a better company for everyone, which will subsequently earn us more money all
Right.
around.
Right. Everybody wins.
You take care of your people will take care of you.
That's exactly right. That's it right there. It's
Hmm.
that's the least you said, I think you started with the least common denominator. You said something, and that's the least common denominator.
Yeah.
Yeah, go into give and not get, just like a
Hmm.
relationship. Go into give and not get, and the universe will come back to you every time.
Anything else?
I'm good. That sounds great. That was a great. I love that story. It scares me a little bit, but
Hmm.
I think it's a pendulum, right? I think it's going to swing and it's going to settle somewhere in the middle. It has to, because
Hmm.
we're humans. And we're wired for that connection. We're wired for love. Everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to be wanted. Everybody wants to be cared for.
Hmm.
We're wired for that, and and it's going to come back, and then we're going to be able to coexist, and hopefully in our lifetime I get to see it. I don't know, but I am positive it will come back. I have to be. I have to be.
Yes, I agree. All right, Rob.
Yeah. Awesome.
Enjoy your time at the
See you next.
lake.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks. See you
Ciao.
next time. Ciao.
Thanks for listening to Authentically Successful After Hours. I'm your host, Carol Schultz.
And I'm your co-host, Rob Swymer. Hey, don't forget to click follow to hear more. And please leave us an honest review and rating so we can continue to improve and bring you more great stories.
Thanks again for listening, and see you next time.